I have a confession to make. I taught you how to make a vignette, and we were using the rulers and we were trying to figure out how much to feather it. I was trying to help you learn image size and resolution, make you aware of how large the image is and working in pixels and inches and all this. And the strategy wasn't the best one to make a vignette, but it did serve its purpose. So for now, I want to show you a much better way to make a vignette, to bring this image, to make it pop a little more. Let's go ahead and drop a curves layer. Now, there's a lot we could do to this picture to improve it before we did this, but this is just about vignettes, so we'll get straight to it. Curves adjustment layer, third one over. Grab that center point and pull it down. Now, that's not a vignette. All we did was darken the image. And we can always come back in here and change this, right? We can darken it more. We can lighten it up. We can, it's non-destructive. That's the benefit of this. So now, not on the curve, click over on the layer. Get the rectangular marquee, that's the letter M, and should you not have the rectangular marquee, left click and hold your mouse down and you can select it from this list. Now, I'm going to pick a spot equidistant from the top and left side, about equidistant. Come over to about the same point on the other side, but I'm not going to make the top as equidistant from the bottom because of the way this picture was taken. I'm going to go ahead and come in about there, and we get that little hint that we now have this centered. Now in the prior one, we went ahead and right-clicked and feathered this, but that's permanent. Let me show you something else. Now hit the letter D, so you got default colors, and X if you have to swap these out, so you got black in the foreground. And we're going to fill this selection with black. And remember, look at the left side of your keyboard. Option is on the left, Command is to the right of the spacebar. When you look at that, Options further left, it corresponds to the foreground color. So Option+Shift with black in the foreground fills that rectangle with black. Then we can hit Command D to deselect, and there's our vignette. Now you might be saying to yourself, that doesn't look particularly good, because I told you previously, you should not be able to tell there's a vignette. A really good one, unless you go really dramatic, you want it to be so subtle that you don't see it until you turn it on and off. So how do we do that? Well, let's go ahead. We'll come in here, double click on our curves adjustment layer, and once again, proof that we can go ahead and modify this to our heart's content. And then up here, notice that there's a little symbol that looks like a curve, and there's a little symbol that looks like a mask in Photoshop. What happens when you click on that symbol? And then nothing's here because the mask is not active in the layers panel. Click on the mask and look at this. What is this? Feather. Come in, feather it a little bit. Well, a little better, but can we do better? Pull it over. Pull over a little more. Can you see the edge of that vignette? Can you tell where it is? You might say on the top, well, kind of right here, but this is a smooth transition of color. Pretty cool, huh? And you can come back in, double click on your curves again, and go ahead and adjust your vignette a little more. Take it down so you see you can always come back. If you didn't do it quite right, you can always come back to it. And here's a little bonus tip. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. What happens if you jump this curves layer? And yeah, we could darken it up some more, but this is a different effect. If we jump this curves layer, we get a second version of our vignette. And for this, it's a little too much. Well, we can back off the opacity to make that more subtle, or we can pump the opacity all the way up and change the curve itself on this layer. This is different. See how this is more dramatic, more pronounced? And this one, even though it was a copy of it, we jumped it, this one is less pronounced. Now, to compare your before and after, here's a little trick. The eyeball on the bottommost layer, the background, hold down Option and click it. That turns off all the other layers. And then when you Option click again, it turns back on all the layers that were on previously. Pretty cool, huh? Now you know how to make a pro vignette. Don't always jump this layer. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. All of these techniques are seasoned to taste. Every image is different. Everything you do is going to be a little different on every image. And sometimes a vignette won't be called for. But most of the time, you bring a lot more interest into your image when you drop one on. Have fun with this and use it, practice it, use it.